this computer. And we are rolling. It is the 1st of June. Wow.
Start recording?
Yes, I did. We're on. Right. And it's the 1st of June. And we've got an interesting world we're living in. But we want to get off into today. Our topic is, well, actually, welcome to the Natural Healing Study Group. And today we want to talk about digestion, how important it is, and not only the physical side of it. You know, we're going to get into chewing and stomach acid and bile and all that stuff. But the emotions that are associated with different organs in the body. And we'll try to give you some really fun ways of connecting things and understanding how it's all interrelated. You know, our emotions affect how we feel. And then if you're not digesting well, you know, or let me put it this way, if you've got a nice good meal, everything perfectly prepared, organic food, it was, you know, prayed over and blessed by monks and whatever. And then if you get some distressful news or something upsetting happens during that meal, it is not going to go well for the rest of that meal. The stomach is not going to be able to digest well. It's not going to squirt out enough of the acids to make the first part of digestion work. And it's going to kind of get fouled up all the way down. So a lot of our food, you know, problems, I mean, you could eat the best and have the worst environment to digest in, or you can have the best environment to digest in and not as good a food, and you'll do way better on that level than the other way around. So did you want to start today, Bobby, on a couple things, or do you have your thing ready, your screen?
Yeah, I'll talk about digestion. You know, we've been stressing a lot of environmental conditions that are fairly new to our lives. You know, all the EMFs, the artificial lighting, things like that. That if you don't handle that, your biochemistry can't work right. The mitochondria are downregulated or inactivated. So, did you want to mute that?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. So, I'm going to talk about digestion of our food. It starts in the mouth, and our digestive tract changes pH, the acidity, alkalinity. So in the mouth, it's more alkaline. That's where the enzymes in your saliva start breaking down carbohydrates. So it's alkaline in the mouth, and then when it gets to the stomach, it's acid. And then in the small intestine, it's alkaline again, and then in the large intestine, it's acid again. So the pH changes, and there's valves that open and close at certain times and move the food that we eat along the digestive tract into those compartments. And so it's important that the pH is right. And how do we get acid and alkaline components being produced? We have to have the building blocks, which are acid and alkaline minerals that'll produce those proper pH secretions at each stage to break our food down. So a lot of people don't chew their food very well. They don't mix the saliva with the food, and they think they have another set of teeth in their stomach or something. But it's really important that we salivate the food really well, so you almost like drink the food, where it just easily swallows down. And then in the stomach, we have cells that produce hydrochloric acid. Parietal cells in the stomach lining produce hydrochloric acid. And you need the building blocks to make hydrochloric acid. You need calcium, chloride, and zinc just to produce hydrochloric acid. And hydrochloric acid, first of all, sterilizes the food that we eat. The food that's coming in has bacteria, fungus, and things on it.
Parasites, parasite eggs.
When that hits a strong stomach acid, it sterilizes, it kills all that. And if your hydrochloric acid isn't strong enough, then especially the fungus will survive. It'll start to set up housekeeping in your stomach and small intestines. It'll start to ferment your carbohydrates when you eat it. It's when you get the gas and bloating and things in the stomach, hiatal hernia happening. But hydrochloric acid breaks down proteins by stimulating the hydrochloric acid. If the pH is low enough, if it's acid enough, it triggers the production of pepsin from pepsinogen produced by, they're called chief cells in our stomach lining. And that's what breaks down the proteins that we eat. Now, minerals, when we take in minerals into our body, they're connected to protein also. They're called chelates. These are like chaperones that bring the minerals into the body. And they have to be separated from those protein chelates in order to be ionizable minerals that the body can use. So this all happens in the stomach if you're making a strong enough hydrochloric acid. So most people don't, and it's easy to detect this with applied kinesiology, manual muscle testing. There's, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, every skeletal muscle in the body is related to organs and gland systems, or acupuncture meridians. And so there's a lot of muscles related to the stomach. But one of those is the pectoralis major clavicular muscle, which is right under the collarbone. And when you test that muscle, the arm should be strong in the clear. And then when you do both of them together, if they're weak together but strong in the clear, that's a test for hydrochloric acid or hypochlorhydria, weak hydrochloric acid production.
Can I mention something while you're right there?
Yeah.
If you think of your circuit breaker in your house, you know, it's that box and it has the circuits, you know, the breakers on them. And if you look on the side, it usually say like kitchen, bathroom, master bath, you know, second bedroom, whatever. And that lets you know which breaker is connected to that. So there's wires on the back of that breaker that then go to that part of the house, right? You know, the kitchen wires will go to the kitchen, the bathroom wires will go to the bathroom. So in the body, that's how we're wired as well. You know, we have, there's many layers, but coming from the spine, those nerves are going, you know, from the spine, they go to certain organs and then, or certain muscles and then certain organs. You know, different places, you know, lower on the spine, they'll go to lower organs, higher on the spine, they'll go to higher organs and muscles. So that's how we're wired. So when Bobby was mentioning that the stomach has the most muscles associated with it, I wish we had the picture on there. Maybe the next time we'll go over those kinesiology muscle relationships. But all the muscles of chewing, you know, all the ones in here on your face, all the muscles of the neck, part of the arm, all the muscles of like the hand and the wrist are all stomach related muscles. So, you know, as practitioners, when people come to us and they say, oh, I've got TMJ problems, or oh, my neck, you know, my neck is always out the back or the front, or I got carpal tunnel, you know, my wrist or something, that lets us know immediately that there's, you know, we're going to trace that right back to the stomach, and that there's a situation with the stomach, that there's something wrong. Either it's not making enough of those acids, the stomach acid isn't strong, something is interfering, and that's what Bobby was talking about. So again, we see, you know, the stomach has the most muscles associated with it, and I like to think about it that God gave us, you know, wisdom in the body, that if we're not able to feed ourselves garbage, you know, that will stop, you know, because those are all those muscles of chewing and bringing food to you are all on that stomach meridian. So go ahead, Bobby. Sorry.
Okay. So this is a parietal cell in the stomach that produces hydrochloric acid. And in all these cells, we have these little mitochondria. We've been talking about this a lot lately in our shows. Mitochondria are the engines of the cells. They produce the power that the physiology of the body runs on, the ATP energy currency. So what we've learned from the past is that these mitochondria are severely affected or down-regulated in their ability to produce this energy currency by several conditions in our environment. And some of the most common are microwaves, from putting a cell phone in your pocket next to your body, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth devices, Fitbit watch, the Bluetooth devices next to the body and stuff, turn down the production of the mitochondria. So what do you think these parietal cells, how much hydrochloric acid they're going to be able to produce when they're exposed to microwave fields?
Not as much as they should.
Right. So even if you're taking in enough minerals, you're getting all 60 minerals like you should every day, you're getting the calcium, chloride, and zinc, these are going to be affected by these electromagnetic fields. Also, blue light from artificial light has the same effect on these mitochondria. So it basically turns the switch off, and you can't really digest, you can't eliminate, you can't respire well at the cell level. Nothing works well. So it's really important to understand that. But this is where the hydrochloric acid is produced, in these cells in their stomach lining. So if we need hydrochloric acid to digest minerals, and your body needs 3 minerals to make hydrochloric acid, see the catch-22 loop there? Mm-hmm. So if you're depleted in minerals to below a certain level, you can't absorb more minerals because you can't make the hydrochloric acid to break them from their chelates, these protein chaperones that they're attached to. Hope that makes sense, because that's, if you don't handle that in the stomach, nothing else downstream is going to really work. You're going to have undigested proteins, carbs, fats, all putrefying and fermenting and making toxicity in the digestive tract, and then this gets into the body. Now, down in the small intestines, especially when people eat gluten, which is a protein in wheat, rye, oats, and barley, it's really difficult, even if our stomach is making adequate hydrochloric acid, it's really hard to break down gluten. So in the small intestine, the lining of the small intestine, we have these finger-like projections called villi, and then on the surface of each of these villi are microvilli, and there's a brush border, it's called. This is where the nutrients, they get broken down in the intestines, get absorbed into the villi, and then this is showing the blood
vessel,
flow, the lymphatic, the artery and vein inside each of these villi, where you absorb. This would be the portal circulation that would go right to the liver, right, first place, to get detoxified. So this border is affected if you're eating gluten, which is, think of wallpaper paste or paper mache, which we used to make from wheat flour because of the gluten. The word gluten means glue, and it makes this tenacious layer of glue, if you will, that hardens on this brush border of the small intestine. So now you can absorb nutrients from your gut into the blood.
Very well, or
less. It has this coating of gluten. Think of paper mache or wallpaper paste. You know how hard that is to get off the wall once it hardens? So it's the same thing in the gut, and that really limits our ability to assimilate our nutrition, even if we did digest it in the stomach first.
And look at this is the place, we talked about before, where the digestive system is a tube. It goes, it starts in your mouth and comes out the anus, but it's kind of like, it goes through, but it's really external to the body. And it's only right there, I don't know if you could see Bobby's cursor, right here where it goes into the the portal vein into the liver where it becomes internalized, where now that stuff is actually becoming inside the body. That it's right there that that stuff crosses from outside to inside of the body, right here in the small intestine.
This lymphatic duct is shown in a lymphatic vessel in green here. That's where your liposomal vitamins that are bonded to fat, and your fat gets absorbed through the lymphatic system. So this all, if you got gluten plugging this up, you can't absorb any of it very well. And then we get to a condition that
and you don't have to be a celiac. The gluten is different. The wheat is different nowadays than it was when we were all growing up. They've hybridized it so much to where it's really gluey and sticky, way more than it used to be. That's part of the problem.
So this showing the brush border on the outside of the microvilli and the outside of the villi. And when these get destroyed by the gluten, damaged, if you will, it creates a hyperpermeable or leaky gut situation where things that are undigested, say undigested proteins, which are peptide chains, get absorbed where they normally would not into the blood. And then the immune cells see this as foreign protein. And it creates antibodies and an immune response to these undigested proteins, and you get food intolerance and food allergies and things happening, immune responses that many of us have experienced. And you get unwanted stuff coming into the blood that shouldn't be there.
And that's what creates a lot of the autoimmune conditions.
Exactly.
Right,
your body starts to attack
right there
itself, and it doesn't know good, friend from foe. So this all happens in the small intestine, and a lot of people have issues here, and they don't really understand it. And so it's really easy to find this when we test using applied kinesiology manual muscle testing.
Let me back up one second while you're getting the next thing. Just so people understand a real quick overview of digestion. It really starts with the thought of food, and then the smell and the want of food, and then you start to salivate. That's what it should be. We should prepare the food, and then you're thinking about it, you're putting it together, you got to do some food foreplay. You got to get the body ready to digest, and you smell it. And that all starts a physiologic reaction where you start to, salivate. You start producing digestive enzymes in your mouth. You start to swallow that starts that wave as you start to, start to think about that. And then it starts the digestive process in the stomach. Then the stomach is like a big wash machine. It's churning and it's breaking those. It's sort of like a wash machine blender, if you think about it. And it's breaking that food down. And then from there, the food goes into the small intestine. There's bile that gets squirted in and pancreatic juices that squirted in. But, that's, I'm just giving you the big overview to help it break down even further. But then from there, it goes into the small intestine, which Bobby was just talking about. And that's where the kind of the workhorse of the digestion happens, is in the small intestine. Because after the food is liquefied by, the blender of your stomach, chewed and then in the stomach, then it's like this mushy liquid. And then from there, all of the good stuff has to be extracted. And Bobby was just mentioning to you, it gets in, that's where it actually will get into the body. So from there, then it goes through the liver and, other parts, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that's all the real nutrient parts of the food. But then you think, what's left over? So all of the other things, the water, the fiber, there's electrolytes, a few other things left after the small intestine does its job. So then it gives all of that stuff. It's still liquidy, but most of the nutrients have been taken out now, and it's just waste, pre-waste product. And that's when it goes through the colon or large intestine, same thing. And then it does, basically it moves all of that through it has like this wave-like motion, and then it pulls out extra water and extra minerals or electrolytes. And then when it's finally gone through, it's left with a solid stool, and then it's eliminated. So in an essence, that's the whole digestive tract. It's got to get your mind thinking about how that whole thing works. But then there's all the other organs involved. So back to you.
So this is a chart showing the pH of the digestive tract. Again, in the saliva, pH is more alkaline at 6.5 to 7.5. And then upper stomach, it gets more acid, 4 to 6.5. Lower stomach gets down to about 1.5 pH. That's really acid. If you bit off your finger and swallowed it, it would dissolve the finger down to the bone. That's how strong that should be in your stomach. And the first part of the small intestine, actually the ileum is the first part, but in the duodenum, it's again alkaline. It goes 7 to 8.5 pH, and then it goes more acid again as you go back to the large intestine. Now, in the stomach contents, say you're making enough hydrochloric acid, then when that empties and goes into the small intestine, bile is secreted from the gallbladder. It's made in the liver and stored or concentrated in the gallbladder. And bile is very alkaline again. And that brings the pH of that real acid stomach contents up to a higher pH, so that, and also bicarbonate from the pancreas, which is very alkaline, is secreted into the small intestine. And that allows the enzymes, the pancreatic enzymes, amylase, protease, and lipase, which break down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and then trypsin, chymotrypsin, secreted in the walls of the intestines, things are all triggered by this pH. They're pH-sensitive enzymes. And that's one thing about enzymes. They work well in a specific pH window. Some work better in an acid pH, some work better in an alkaline pH. So pH triggers the production of these when it's proper. And then the probiotics, if you will, the friendly bacteria in our intestinal tract also affects the pH and further affects digestion. So in the intestines, we have more of the acidophilus strains, and in the large intestine, the bifidobacteria in the large intestine.
Which,
And
glad
so
you mentioned that. Yeah.
There's a lot happening there. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that a lot of times people get digestive enzymes and probiotics mixed up or misunderstood. So the digestive enzymes would be in the stomach, what Bobby mentioned before, like the pepsin, pepsinogen, trypsin, things like amylase, lipase, protease. Those are all digestive enzymes that happen in the stomach. And the intestines, both the small and the large, have your probiotics. That's the probiotics are the little living critters that help so many things, in both of those, in the small intestine and in the large. They do different things. We'll have to do a whole talk on probiotics because they're fascinating. But that's why we eat fermented foods. So yeah, just wanted to mention the difference on that. And I think we have a video on the about the difference on the YouTube channel between probiotics and digestive enzymes. But back to the stomach, Bobby was mentioning before about being able to digest and having, it gets to be a little bit of a catch-22 with being able to digest minerals and food, and then having it, having that thing go right. So what do people do to break that cycle? And what we do is we put people on digestive support, and it could be the enzymes, or it could be just something called betaine hydrochloride, because your stomach makes hydrochloric acid. So if you wanted an external form in a pill, it's called betaine hydrochloride. And so that can be taken with the meal. And there's a couple of formulas. There's some that are just the betaine hydrochloride, sometimes with pepsin in them, which is probably the least expensive one that you can do to start creating a more acidic stomach. Because once the stomach is acidic, you know, as Bobby mentioned, the parietal cells produce the hydrochloric acid, and then once the hydrochloric acid is acid enough, then it triggers the chief cells to create more pepsin and pepsinogen, which then breaks more food down. This is one that we really like. This one has both. It has the enzymes, amylase, to digest carbohydrates, lipase, you know, or short for lipids or fats. Lipase digests fats. What was the other? Protease, proteins. And then this one also has cellulase to help break down vegetable fiber. Sometimes vegetables, you know, the fiber in that, if it's not cooked or broken down or heated, it's tough to break down. So that formula, I love that one. Because it's give the best of both worlds. And again, just straight betaine hydrochloride, a lot of times you'll see it with pepsin, will increase the acidity of the stomach. And sometimes that's enough. So both of those, you know, the best of both worlds is to get one with the enzymes in it, like Bobby just showed you, to help starting the process of digesting in the stomach. And we'll go into a little bit more about the emotions, but while we're at the stomach, the first emotion, one of the biggest ones that's associated with stomach is disgust. You know, if you're just disgusted with something, or if you have stomach issues, you're just disgusted a lot. And that's not to say that things aren't disgusting in the world or things, but it's more of the nature of being disgusted about stuff, or just getting into that, I don't like it. I can't stomach it. I don't want to stomach it. So it's like stopping that first part of digestion with just that emotion of just not accepting something. You know,
makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, it makes you want to vomit. I just want to get rid of it. You know, it's the first step of, you know, so, I mean, that's a horrible process, but to have something affect you so much emotionally where you want to vomit is a big deal. Is definitely a big deal. So,
Yep.
So yeah, digestive enzymes, helping that whole process, you know, start. And then it's really vital that we really need to make our meals a sacred time. It's that you got to wall off the world. Don't answer the phone. Shut your cell phone off. Don't deal with news. Don't listen to upsetting things, upsetting people, because you really need to sit and digest and chew your food and salivate and be in the whole mindfulness of eating. That starts the whole process, because again, when it's upset, you can have the perfect meal, all organic, blessed by monks and nuns and popes and prayed over. But if you have something to upset you while you're in that meal, it won't get digested. And if it doesn't get digested, the body has to ferment it or putrefy it to deal with it. And that starts a whole host of toxicity down below. So, you know, you have to start combing over things and looking at it logically. You know, if you got colon problems, like, well, I want to find out upstream, are you digesting up there to cause the colon problem? You know, are you stopping that whole digestive process? You know, and then are you worried during that whole time of eating? So yeah, those are some of the things that we have to track down when we eat. And
all of these steps that we're talking about are controlled from feedback from the nervous system. And we have two branches of the automatic or autonomic nervous system that does things that we don't have to think about, like digesting, breathing, our heart beating, things like that. There's sympathetic and parasympathetic are the two branches of the autonomic nervous system. Digestion and elimination run on parasympathetic nerve supply. So when you are under stress, you switch into sympathetic dominant nervous system function, which is fight or flight response, survival. So when that happens, the parasympathetic, that breaker gets turned off when the sympathetic breaker gets turned on. So the nerve supply to the gut gets turned off. It's way down regulated. So you lose tonicity in all the valves all the way through your gut. That's why people get hiatal hernias, so, the valve above your stomach that loses tonicity and opens up. Your stomach goes up and gets caught in that and it spasms. It's called a hiatal hernia. Your ileocecal valve between the small intestine and large intestine, that will malfunction. The Houston valve on the other side. There's all kinds of problems that'll happen. You won't create hydrochloric acid, gastrin, pepsin, all the things that we talked about that we need to be produced. They need to have the stimulation from the autonomic nervous system. So when you got a cell phone in your pocket again, you got Bluetooth devices, earplugs, fitness watch, whatever close to you, you got the Wi-Fi router, cell tower close to you, all those things, as well as the artificial lighting, LED lighting, the lighting on your monitor, on your smartphone, tablet, computer monitor, television. Those are all LED light devices that have too much blue, not enough red, and they downregulate the mitochondria. And they put us into a fight or flight mode, stimulates that blue light in the eye, stimulates in the paraventricular nucleus, which is the start and end of the sympathetic nervous system. It triggers that fight or flight response, puts you into a survival mode, not a digestive mode. So things like that, it's all invisible. The light isn't invisible, but the effects are invisible. The EMFs are invisible. Eating your food under artificial light will make it really hard for your body to process that food properly. So the light you eat your food under is more important than the food itself, actually. And it's hard for a lot of people to get their head around, but so the environment, the physics are more important than the biochemistry, because physics trumps biochemistry. The biophysics in your environment have to be right for the biochemistry in your body to work right. That's why we stress the effects of these EMFs and artificial lighting and things so much. Now, on top of that, if you've got, imagine sitting at I experienced this as a child growing up, at the table, and there was like arguing going on and stuff. It was not a very happy place. So that puts you in a sympathetic dominant fight or flight mode. You turn off your digestion, you don't digest, your food starts fermenting, right? You get sick from it instead of getting nourished from it. So again, like Carrie said, having the news on, the fake news, or, whatever, it's all bad news. Turn all that stuff off, put some music on or something, and talk about positive things. Everybody sits and looks at their device now at the table. In a lot of families, it's amazing. Nobody communicates. People go out to dinner at a restaurant and they're all looking at their phone. Nobody's communicating. I don't know if they're texting each other about their food or what. So you gotta part the waters, turn that stuff off, and create an environment that's conducive to digestion and assimilation of the nutrition that you need. You need 90 nutrients every day. Not only do you have to supply those to the body, but you have to be able to process them and absorb them and utilize them adequately before your cells can actually benefit from them.
Yeah. And another thing about food in the mealtime, and I think we've all kind of forgotten about this a lot, or at least in our society, it's not as big a deal as it used to be, is prayer. We used to pray over the meal. We used to give thanks for the food, for being prepared, for who grew it, for, how it got to you. We're thankful for this. And that goes back to Emoto's work, on water, putting that intention out, so you're putting yourself in the appreciative mode, and you're becoming mindful of that. And that starts, you're putting this like protectiveness around that. And then people used to, pray at the table or hold hands or do something to where like, okay, everybody, we're gonna eat now, and we're gonna be in good positive eat mode energy. Let's pray, or let's do something to put our positive mental effort into this food and get into the idea of eating. We're not going to be, it's like we're doing too many things at once. We're in this ADD society. It's onto this, onto this, onto this, onto this. We watch things and it's flip, 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 flip. You can't watch and look at something long enough. It's got to be
3-second sound bites.
Yeah. So yeah, praying over the meal or just being thankful for that, starts that whole process.
Attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
So important.
Yeah.
Right. So, shouldn't microwave your food either for the same reason, because you're grossly changing the structure of the molecules. It heats the food really well, but at a cost. It tears down molecules, produces compounds they don't even have names for. They're called unique radiolytic compounds that are produced in a microwave oven. This is the same frequency that your cell phone is putting out now. I'm not talking about 5G, I'm talking about 4G and below. And all your other Bluetooth devices, your wireless alarm system in your house, your game devices, all that stuff, putting out the same frequency as your microwave oven. And so you have to think through the whole system. And then when you go to restaurants, a lot of the food is microwaved also. And you're affecting the quality of that food that you need to nourish your body. So you want to avoid all of this, just like turn off the TV, don't have the phone and all that stuff around. Don't microwave your food either. A lot of the food is microwaved and irradiated especially imported foods, when it comes into our country. And that affects the structure of the food right there too. So there's so many levels of consideration with food and diet and nutrition to address. But we want to hit the big ones that, things that we do 3 times a day that really make an effect in the long run on all of our bodies.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely. And then another thing about food that's kind of underrated is chewing. We need to chew our food. Remember going to a Buddhist retreat a long time ago, and part of the exercises, it was like being silent was one part of the whole seminar, but we had a eating meditation, and the idea was to, you count your chews and try to do it as long as you can, to where you learn to you're mindful of your chewing. And I really didn't realize how little I chewed before I did that. I mean, I was like 8 or 10 chews maybe. And the goal was to go 50 or more. And I was like, there's no way. I can't chew this 50 chews. But you can. So the idea is to, you really slow yourself down. I'm not saying you have to do that with everything, but this was just an exercise to get people to be more mindful. Sometimes you have to do it excessively. But it's very, very important to chew that food. And that way you're not talking and stuff. You're chewing, I mean, in between as well. But being able to emulsify that food so the stomach doesn't have so much work to do.
And something that helps that is when you take a mouthful of food, set your fork down and chew. And don't have another fork full of food waiting that your body wants to put in your mouth. You're going to hurry up and swallow so you can get the next forkful. So do one, set it down, chew, liquefy it, swallow it.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
And,
enjoy that food.
It should take a while to eat.
Right.
So chewing is so important.
I want to share my screen here with you. Let me see which one I can get to first. There's a couple of these I wanted to share with you. And make sure I'm not, okay. Can you guys see my screen here? I don't know if I did it good before. All right. So this is one. Then there's a few of these overlapping, but I wanted to start with some of these. The liver emotions, anger, frustration.
Good typo there.
Oh yeah, I'll fix those later. I'll do it later. Okay. The heart. When I was looking these up and putting these down, and we have charts on our wall and things that we follow, we just kind of know these, but it was like overjoyed or joy or being overstimulated. So the heart, you know, moves blood over the body and moves energy. And you think, well, how could something be overjoyed? But it's more of a mania, a manic. It's not, you know, you could be too excited about something. And then I kind of put these over here for you. So excitement or mania, it's the main emotion of the heart. When someone experiences highs that are too taxing, they burn out. They burn out their nervous system. Symptoms of palpitations, insomnia, unclear thinking, or excess risk-taking may be the expression if someone is running manic. Mania is more common than people think because most people consider the term emotional with someone who's running sad or low. Mania on the outside just seems like the person is very happy and excited about their life and can't relax their mind, or maybe they may be just the type of person who can't stop talking and falling off the deep end during conversation. Obviously, obviously balances everything. With the highs, you also want to experience calm in life as well. Calmness will counterbalance this and relax the heart. Symptoms from a heart or joy imbalance can result in palpitations, restlessness, insomnia, nightmares, mania. And then also a big part of this is, you know, I'm looking at this and I see magnesium deficiency. So this is a very big mineral for the heart, and for calming this down would be magnesium. Anger. The organ responsible for this emotion is the liver. Anger has many expressions. Resentment is one, frustration is another, and obviously rage is an extreme. Symptoms that show up are blurry vision, dizziness, and headaches that are mainly on the top of the head, high blood pressure or pain in the ribs. The best way to balance out anger is to console it and understand it. This may cause sadness. However, this is a great start because you're moving in the direction of anger reduction. Anger affects the liver, anger affects the liver, whose main role is to ensure the smooth flow of qi or bile and blood throughout the body. It also stores blood, which again for women is important for ensuing a pain-free regular menstrual cycle. The liver is also expressed through the strength of the tendons, hair, nails, as well as the eyes. Where the liver meridian goes around the eye, a gallbladder there. So where is it? The effect of anger has on the body depends on how it is processed, whether it is bottled up or expressed outward through yelling. Overall, anger causes the liver qi to stagnate and fester, leading to poor circulation or general internalization of heat. Symptoms of liver or anger imbalance, verbal or violent outbursts, depression, red face and eyes, dizziness, high blood pressure. This is interesting, waking between 1 and 3 a.m. Headaches, stiff neck and shoulders, tendinitis, painful menstrual cramps. Fear. Fear is directly associated with the kidneys and the adrenals. It makes your energy drop and is very descending in nature. If the adrenals are weak, your body starts cooling and proper functions of processes like metabolism become an issue. Proper digestion starts deteriorating also. Issues with hearing can be related to the kidneys. If fear is consuming you and your life focuses around fear, these are most likely issues you're dealing with. If you can turn this fear into a logic expression of sadness, this means that your body is shifting, and hopefully soon that sadness will shift to a more neutral state. Fear impacts the function of the kidneys and the adrenal glands, which are considered one in traditional Chinese medicine. Let me go through here, let's see. Okay, they're responsible for longevity, growth and development, metabolism, temperature regulation, fertility, as well as managing stress on a daily basis. They are expressed in the low back, bones, ears, and teeth as well. It's no surprise that the kidneys govern fear. In biomedicine, the adrenal glands, which sit right on top of the kidneys, produce cortisol and norepinephrine when we are faced with threatening situations, stress, and major life change. That's the whole fight or flight that happens. So symptoms of kidney or fear imbalance can result in frequent urination and incontinence, night sweats and hot flashes, poor memory, low back and knee pain. That's because of the low back and knee pain, because of the muscles, certain muscles associated with the adrenals tie into those. And we should actually, we'll do a class on those where we can show you those pictures. Ear ringing, hearing loss, premature aging, hair loss, infertility, osteoporosis. Now the ear ringing and hearing loss is also a problem with the nerves going through the canals in the cranial nerve canals in the brain. So we could talk about that also. Shock is paired with the gallbladder, and these emotions scatter your energy. And there's a couple things here with gallbladder. Gallbladder is also, it makes bile, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I'll go back over that because there's a couple of emotions here. But let me tell you this while we're here. When your energy is scattered and not centered, you feel symptoms of indecisiveness, confusion, or lack of courage. You may experience different muscle or tendon issues as well. Protecting yourself from scattered energy is very beneficial. The issue with shock is that it creates a more lasting effect. So understand what causes the shock and bring more logic to the issue can relax the body. Practicing being in the moment through mindful activities like meditation is great too. Symptoms from gallbladder imbalances can be timidity, startled easily, inability to make decisions, a bitter taste in the mouth, temporal headaches, like around the front up in here, poor digestion, especially with fatty foods, rib side or right shoulder pain, constipation, floating or pale stools, because of the fat not being digested. That's what would make the stools pale or float. And then waking between 11 and 1 a.m. Sadness. Grief or sadness corresponds with the lungs. The emotion of sadness is very depleting to the body over a long time. It weakens the nervous system while reducing energy in the body as well. Symptoms associated with lung issues are excessive crying, tightness in the chest, shortness of breath, asthma, frequent cold, skin problems like psoriasis and eczema, also circulation issues. In Chinese medicine, the lungs are said to control the pores of the skin, so it is important to boost and protect the protection layer of the body, the skin. Symptoms of lung or sadness imbalance can result in chest tightness, shortness of breath, allergies, asthma, getting sick frequently, dry skin, eczema, and waking between 3 and 5 a.m. and crying easily and frequently. And one more over here, and then I want to show you one other thing. Worry is controlled by the spleen, and the spleen in Chinese medicine controls energy of the body. Worry is one of the most common emotions that may include obsessive thinking, dwelling, and mental work that requires intense focus. We believe that when the spleen is too taxed, energy becomes stuck. Symptoms of spleen issues are fatigue, memory issues, poor appetite, bloating, weight loss, paleness, poor hair, nails, and skin. Eating properly and frequently, it is very important when the spleen is affected. It's important to give the body nourishment for the reduction of worrying. Don't you feel so much better after you've eaten a meal when you're worrying? Symptoms of spleen and worry imbalances can result in chronic fatigue, loss of appetite, poor digestion, bloating, loose stools, diarrhea, bruising, easily bleeding disorders, and long and heavy periods. All right, I'm going to show you one more. Get rid of that one. Get this one. Can you see this? Did this change for you? Do I have to change my screen again?
I see sadness on the word.
All right, let me see. I'm going to have to go do it differently. I think it's this one. Let me go back here. All right, do you see motions and organs, lung, skin, large intestine?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, here's a few more little things here on this one. Grief and sadness felt in lungs, skin, and large intestine. Let's see, I wanted to show you a couple of things. Yeah, we talked about that one. All right, kidneys. Here we go. This is what. Okay, positive emotions like pride and courage are also felt in the lungs. The lungs are like a minister from where the policies are issued. The physical functions of the lungs are to govern energy and respiration, control dispersing and descending the energy, regulate water passage, control skin and air, and open into the nose. The emotional aspect relates to long periods of unresolved grief and sadness, which constrains the lungs, leading to shallow breathing to the top of the lobes of the lung. So that's interesting, you know, that certain, they're paired that way. Lungs, large intestine are actually paired in Chinese medicine, and then the large intestine covers for the skin. If you don't eliminate normally and poop something out, it's going to come out through the skin. So that's why a lot of the conditions have said,
The lungs or the kidneys?
yeah. I lost my train of thought. So, okay, so things coming out the skin like psoriasis, eczema, you would have to work with the large intestine with that. All right. Kidneys, ears, where they're wired, bladder, and fear. These organs are first to respond to fear. That's your fight or flight. Have you ever felt like you're going to empty your bladder when you're in fear? You just want to pee, right? So because fear relaxes the bladder.
Wet your pants and faint.
Yeah. The emotional aspect relates to fear and willpower. Long periods of fear can weaken the kidneys and lead to loss of willpower, you know, because you're urinating wrong. Working for long hours with stress can also weaken the kidney energy. Liver, eyes, gallbladder, anger, generosity. You know, the eyes definitely, you know, working, if, you know, with eyes and liver, they both need tremendous amount of vitamin A. So they can see why those are related. Feelings of anger and rage affect your liver and travel up towards your head. This can cause migraines, dizziness, lack of clarity, and many other strong bodily sensations. And I'm glad that I wanted to get back to this one. Melancholy, melancholic emotions like worry or pensiveness or, you know, used to be like just being down. It wasn't quite depressed. That's a little different. This is just down, melancholy. Also impact your liver in a different way. These are less powerful, but they last longer and can cause digestive issues and problems with your gallbladder. Gallbladder also, while I'm here, I was trying to put all this, there's so much with the emotions and organs, but I wanted to start putting something together. But also gallbladder conditions when there's bile that's congealed, you know, like this one might be like the one right above here, melancholy, might not be making enough bile, or the bile in the next case, what I'm going to tell you, would get too thick. Like if you're going to get gallbladder stones, then that bile is becoming crystallized, and it's, instead of nice and loose and flowing. See, bile is like soap, and just think about bile as soap, and it's going to break down fats. Like what happens if you get, you know, grease on your hands? What's the first thing you want to do? You want to put soap on it, right? It's going to emulsify it and it'll take it right off. That's exactly what the gallbladder does. It emulsifies and breaks down fat. So when that's not working, when you're maybe have usually like bitter resentment, that's the best way I can put it. There's something that you just don't like, it's just crystallized, and you're just really, really ticked off about something. You can't do anything about it. And that's where they get that crystallized bile.
You get a thick bowel stasis.
So
it's usually acidic.
Yeah. So
have enough sodium.
There you go. There's a big lack, another mineral, you know, lack of sodium, salt, that's in salt, not eating that.
Great alkalizer.
Mm-hmm. So we got a couple things happening with it, you know, with it, melancholy, and then just being just bitter, mad. So both of those are kind of gallbladder, liver, you know, because as Bobby mentioned before, the bile is made in the liver, but it's stalled in it's stored in the gallbladder, in the storage tank there. Okay, so the positive emotions with these are generosity and kindness. This is why people can often tell that someone is kind by simply looking into their eyes. You can see it, you know, the eyes are the window to the soul. So the liver, I like this one, is often compared to an army general from where the strategy is derived. Hence, courage and resoluteness manifest from the liver. The physical function of liver are to store blood, ensure smooth flow of energy, moisten the sinews, and opens into the eyes. The emotional aspect relates to smooth flow of energy and blood. Long periods of unresolved anger, resentment, and frustration can stagnate the flow, leading to stiff, tight muscles, digestive disturbances, menstrual problems, and thinking becoming dull and foggy. All right, heart and the small intestine related, and we have impatience and love. One of the vital organs of your body, the heart, reacts strongly to emotions of hate or impatience. These emotions can lead to heart palpitations, brain fog, insomnia, and many other unpleasant sensations and disorders. The heart is also responsible for love and happiness. The physical functions of the heart are to govern blood, control blood vessels, manifest complexion, houses the mind, opens onto the tongue, and controls sweat. The emotional aspects relate to mental activity. If the heart is strong with abundant blood, there will be normal mental activity, a balanced emotional life, clear conscience, a good memory, clear thinking, and good sleep. If the heart is weak and blood deficient, then there may be a mental problem such as anxiety, depression, poor memory, dull thinking, and insomnia with dream disturbed sleep. Pretty interesting. I really think this correlations, more people knew that, we would get, on top of our emotions and realize that that's so important. With the body, mind, and soul, it's all one. We got to start on the physical, but then it oftentimes goes into that emotional side, and we have to pay attention to that.
You can see how with the essential oils that affect your emotions,
Yeah,
they can affect the health of these organs. They're changing the emotions also.
absolutely. So we've got spleen, stomach, pancreas on this little group here, anxiety, trust. The gut feeling that many people believe is very real. There's a strong connection between your gut and your brain. That's for sure. So it comes to no surprise that it's affected by strong emotions. Anxiety that's felt in the spleen, stomach, and pancreas. Excessive worry can trigger many digestive issues and negatively impact your life. People prone to emotional disturbances are more prone to constipation, spastic colon, and irritable bowel syndrome. On the flip side, many positive emotions are felt in these organs are trust, openness, and being vulnerable in a good way. The physical conditions of the spleen are to govern transformation and transportation, control blood, control muscles, and the four limbs, opens into the mouth and lips. The emotional aspect relates to thought. If the health of the spleen is abundant, we will think clearly, concentrate, and memorize easily. Conversely, excessive studying and mental work or agitation over long periods can weaken the spleen. And also the spleen scrubs the blood. It's one of the things that the blood goes through it, so it scrubs it. And it's also important for immune system. And then we already mentioned that bit about the stomach. So.
I have to share something real quick.
Yep. You got it.
Okay. So.
Share screen. So yeah, so much.
Let's talk about.
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
Talk about the association of these meridians with their teeth. This rarely gets correlated with people's symptoms that they're having in the rest of their body. But again, we've talked about this before. In embryology, the mouth, the face develops first, and everything else that develops after that has a connection to the teeth in the form of meridians, acupuncture meridians. So this is like someone with their mouth open facing you. This is the right side. Left side, the wisdom teeth, or the third molars, are all the fire meridians: heart, small intestine, triple warmer.
Can you make that a little larger? Can you make that a little larger?
I don't know.
If you just like scroll, yeah, there we go. Awesome.
So the heart, small intestine, triple warmer, and circulation, sex are all fire meridians on the wisdom teeth. And then the first and second molars, let's see, on the bottom are long and large intestine meridians. These are the spinal correlations, spinal nerve correlations.
Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, that's what those stand for.
And so the first and second molars on the top are pancreas and stomach. And the premolars on the top are long and large intestine, just like the molars down here, and the premolars on the bottom are like the molars on the top.
They just switched.
yeah, then you get to the canines. Those are your liver and gallbladder. And then the anterior teeth are all kidney bladder, both upper and lower. So this is something that, say you've got your 6-year molar, right? One of these that's rotten from eating sugar or not having good dental hygiene and things. So this can affect the organs associated with the meridians that are connected to those. And then you also have the endocrine correlation out here in purple. So the mouth affects all this stuff. And vice versa, the organ can affect the integrity of the tooth as well. So we always check this on people, correlate symptoms, issues that they're having, see if it 2 points or reflexes, back to the mouth in any way. But another thing I wanted to show you real quick was the muscles related to the stomach. This is in
good. Yeah.
The pollicus longus, the opponent's pollicus, that allows you to, oppose your thumb and index finger like this. Right? The bicep.
You have, I'm still seeing the tooth chart.
Okay, still seeing the tooth chart.
Yep.
Okay.
You get that.
All right, let me stop sharing and see if I can start with. Maybe I can't do that. Can you see that?
Yeah, go ahead and click on it. All I can see is just like all the muscles there. I'm not seeing the muscle
Can't
itself.
see the actual muscle itself. Okay.
No.
I guess we can't do this then.
We might have to do that next time. We're getting to the bottom of our hour, but what Bobby's showing is when we'll get it where we can actually show all the different muscles and what they're associated with. So what he was showing before was like the stomach has the most muscles on it, and you'll actually see a face. You'll see all the muscles of the chewing inside the mouth, around in here on the head, the temporal muscles, all these muscles here in the neck. These ones right here. All the ones in the back of the neck, all the ones in the hand and wrist. These are all stomach related muscles. Just so you can see, there's just so many of them that are associated with the stomach. And then there's just.
You get diagnosed as rotator cuff injury, carpal tunnel.
EMJ, carpal tunnel, right.
So they want to cut on you.
So we want to go, no, let's go check out the stomach and let's get that happier. Let's make sure that that's working. Let's go see if there's
in the hospital cafeteria.
But we could also look and see.
No correlation with food at all. With the medical condition.
But just the last correlation, and then we'll wrap it up for today. But with Bobby mentioned about the teeth, if you've got, say, an infected tooth, maybe a like a wisdom, or it could be anything, just doesn't matter. So if that tooth is infected, you're going to be absorbing the poisons from that tooth, which is going to further, it's going to be on that meridian. So if, say, we find one on the stomach meridian, a tooth that's maybe infected, dying, it may have a filling on it, perio, maybe the filling got chipped. There's so many things. What?
Root canal.
A root canal in the tooth, which we don't like root canals. But anyway, then we could then follow back and say, so tell me about your stomach. I was like, oh God, I'm on, I don't know, Prilosec or something. It's like, well, how long you been on that? Oh, 15 years. And before that, I was on Tums. And so you find this long history. It's like, oh, now we're talking. So let's go back and let's start to fix that. Let's get you on something to digest, and let's get you on eating right, and let's help the tooth. And then let's find out what's emotionally behind it. And then you go find out that the ex-wife from something way back, whatever, started that whole kind of cycle or whatever, or something in your childhood, something started. There's an emotional issue there. It's being triggered like constantly. So it all wraps up all into one. So you would never you think that tooth was related to an emotional issue, or the stomach problem could clear up the tooth. But
or it could cause a subluxation in your spine.
exactly. Yeah. So
So
this
everything affects everything in the body.
this is great. We're wired this way, how it all correlates. And that's what's so beautiful about the system, and how you learn to communicate with it and do the most good with the least amount of harm when you're communicating with the body. So, do you have anything left you want to say?
I think we should wind it down. We're already over.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. Please be here next week. And next week, we're going to cover male and female hormones. We're going to talk about something called the orgasm hangover. There's an oxytocin drop after orgasm. That's why some people become, really nasty the next day, because of the drop in oxytocin. And we're going to talk about that and why, and talk about male and female hormones, different parts, female menopause, male menopause, female cycles, fertility. We'll talk a little bit about all that. So thank you for coming into the Natural Healing Study Group. Visit our YouTube channel, Two Gross Healing, and have a great week.
Namaste.
Namaste.